All right, so hey everyone, welcome to the Friday night special. I'm Gil, and those of you know, below me is Reed. Dave stepped out for a second.
Hi, everyone.
Over there, and to my side here is my twin brother by another mother, Scott of Hidden Valley Homestead. He is a operating engineer, and he has a little bit of special knowledge about some of the stuff we're going to be talking about tonight. And so let me go ahead and get stuff here ready and put that up big. Okay, so the grid, the good, bad, and the ugly.
So you're talking about us, aren't you?
No,
I'm definitely the ugly.
I'm talking about the guys that actually maintain it and let it become the good, the bad, and the ugly, depending where you are in the country.
Sadly, it's a lot of bad and a ton of ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Tibor. Didn't have to agree that wholeheartedly. Hey, James. Heaven Essentials.
Yep. Ryan 84. Lois Young. Hey. So yeah,
see if I can keep up with the live chat better this year, this night. I'm pretty bad at it.
Yeah. So right now I'm trying something new tonight. I got, besides my regular 2 monitors, I got my laptop over here with the YouTube live stream on it. And so, first question, what'd you guys think of my little intro there?
I was really impressed. I'm thinking, wow, you are tech savvy for an old guy.
Yeah, I am 62, but hey.
I'm jealous because I'm old too. How do you do all that?
Living the dream. Hey.
Jeremy, I just texted him, let him know, hey, pop in.
Reed, what did you think of that?
I think it was all right. It kind of came in kind of weird on this end. Yeah. I'm gonna have to watch it on the beginning on the YouTube side, see if it looks a little better.
It does.
Yeah, he's right. It was really choppy and hesitating on my I probably because you have so much going on right here with this feed, but I watched it on my phone and it was smooth and it was clean. So it came out great on the what everybody else is seeing, I think.
All right, good.
This is a great program.
Yeah, that was a little PowerPoint thing I turned into a video. So.
Oh, neat.
And that was my grandson at the end there, and he thinks he's cute. He knows it, and he lets everybody know he's cute.
Oh, I thought it was a kid from a picture of your youth.
What I want to know is the elephant in the room is what do you got him doing digging a survival bunker into your house for?
Actually,
OPSEC.
when I posted,
Notice that, or what about you guys?
when I first posted that slide, that was he was making the great escape. That's what I was working down in the basement underneath his bedroom.
That's
okay,
great.
but for the grid, guys, Anthony's in here too.
Steve said he might come by. We're right in the middle of his dinner, though.
Yeah. So what do you guys?
Hey, Howie.
Yep, there's Howie. So what do you think of the condition of our grid? I'm going to go around to each of you and let you tell what you think of it in your area and what you know about it with your, what your research has done. So I'm going to start down below with Reed.
Me again, huh?
All right, Reed. All right, I'll give you a pass. I'll start with.
You're the engineer, dude. I mean, come on. You're the expert.
Yeah,
here.
I can start. I can start. Don't worry. The power grid. Okay, a great example. So most of you guys that have been driving around, a lot of America, we drive a lot, right? We all go on road trips. We go here and there like that. Anyone noticed how bad the highways have gotten in most places? They've gotten pretty darn horrific, right?
Yeah.
The grid, in my opinion, in a lot of places is really matching the conditions of the highway. It has been neglected. It's been not maintained very well. It is just a couple steps away from falling apart. Now, we're not Puerto Rico level of bad maintenance in most areas, but a lot of other places they are. I mean, like I live in a small town. I'm in New Mexico. We're very rural. You get a good windstorm out here, it'll knock it out. We've had power outages last a couple days. Actually, they did a lot of work in my town. We've actually gotten a good reliability increase, so it doesn't go out every other, once a couple times a month. Now it's every other month or so. There's a reason why all the computer centers and all that, we all have generators and giant UPS systems.
Mm-hmm.
But, the grid hasn't been maintained that well. And if you look at, we had those big outages that were going on in New York, and they were screaming, why can't they get this back up and all this stuff? The grid is, the more you interconnect stuff into the grid, the more interdependencies you make into the grid, the stuff going in and out, all that stuff, it becomes more complicated to keep it balanced. One thing to keep in mind that's very important to know about the grid is the grid stores no energy. The amount of energy going in has to match the amount of energy going out. I mean, there is only a tiny, tiny bit of energy storage in the transformers as basically like giant inductors, but it's minuscule compared to the total power. So, they've always got to match it. So the more interconnections, all the stuff we got going in, they got to have more control systems, smarter systems. You have all these natural gas generators we have to have running all the time because natural gas generators are very fast to spin up and shut down, come up and down real quick. Because we have all these solar panels, and on a different side of solar panels are great, but they're also really bad for the grid because you can have all these solar panels. Like you'd have this whole giant area where it's like 2 megawatts of power. Suddenly a cloud comes by, shades it. And you see a giant drop in the power. So the natural gas generator's got to spin up real fast to cover that loss. And so the more solar we install, the more natural gas generators we need. And anyways. So I think the grid needs a lot of work. And I actually think something we should do as a country to make things more reliable is de-interconnect things. Make things more regionally independent. Make it smaller so one place and one problem in one side isn't going to cascade to the other side of the country. So there's my thoughts.
Okay.
Next person.
Can I ask a question, Gil?
Sure.
In your opinion, Reed, whose fault is it that our grid is in such bad shape? And whose responsibility is it to upgrade that?
Oh, boy. Who's responsible? So
keep your answer short.
I'll try to keep it short. Mostly it's the politicians' problem on that. And for two sides of that, one is we've granted them a monopoly for regions. And by guaranteeing them a monopoly, there destroys the free market incentive to do better things. And that is a severe moral hazard I've seen really go on. Is so they can just suck money into all sorts of other stuff, collect their thing, pay the executives small fortunes, other stuff like that. And I really see the destruction of free market economics related to a lot of that to be a huge issue. Because you're basically giving the moral hazard, and then we don't even have oversight and control. I mean, look at how corrupt most public regulation commissions are. They're a freaking mess.
Mhm.
It would almost be, if you were going to go this route, it'd almost be better to say, we'll have the government own the damn thing. And, if you really want it that way, or open it up to mostly free markets, have some regulation and oversight, but so like that. But I see that the mess we're in now is really related to the design of the design of that moral hazard. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Dave.
Oh,
Tell us
sure.
about-
Put me on the spot. Well, should I be nice or should I put on the tin hat? Which version do you want?
Be nice for now. We'll all put on 10 hats later.
Criminy, that means I got to use my brains.
I
The grid
guess
around here,
you have at it.
the grid around me, pardon the profanity, sucks. They literally just replaced all the lines in front of my apartment complex here this last fall. And in the process, they destroyed my laptop and my extra hard drive because of the power surge. So when I said something to them, they said, sucks to be you. And we still have flickering lights constantly all day long. Their $150,000 worth of wiring they just hung upstairs has done absolutely no good. We still have the same issues. The only thing is when we get an ice storm, they shouldn't fall this time. A couple years ago, where I live, we went 2 weeks without power due to an ice storm. So that was fun. I think our power grid is in very, very vulnerable state. Too many places have told EPA, the federal government, and other scientists to harden our grid for various reasons. I mean, not just terrorist activity or EMP, CMEs, whatever. It's just the fact that some of these connections have been up there for 40, 50 years. The wires are brittle, and all it takes is and they fall down. And nobody's doing anything. So my opinion, this grid is in very bad shape. And now I want to shut up.
All right. I'm
Short and
up here
sweet.
from Tibor. They're going to strain the grid even more with new commercial buildings and stuff. One of the things that, before I jump up here to Scott, one of the things that I want to point out is the grid relies heavily on transformers. And the big bad boy transformers are, let me see a second here, scroll that down. I mean, these things are big, ugly, bad transformers. And I'm going to show you a picture of one here. It'll come up here. There we go. And I'm going to get it the right size and I'll throw it up there for you. Okay. All right, look at the size of the gentleman next to that transformer. These things are huge. Problem is, we don't make them in America. They come from overseas. Now,
And the lead time's about 18 months.
At least. If they've had problems over there, they're going to be building theirs first. So, Scott, you're an operating engineer. You're up on the big cranes and stuff.
Yeah.
You've put those in place. How easy is it a job to put one of those in once it gets to where you're at?
It's really not that big a deal to put them in. And my experience, having been in the cranes for almost 15 years now, is I've dealt with every aspect of what we're talking about. From solar cities, solar panel arrays, to windmills, to giant generators, putting together the natural gas power generators like you were just talking about, Reed, to big converters and inverters and all that stuff, all of it. And I'll tell you, and the reason I ask you that question, Reed, about whose fault do you feel that it is, I ask you that for a reason. because having seen the construction side of it, I see the power companies and watching the politics out here. I see what's happening with the people that are in control of our government, and they're the ones that are mandating these power companies to do X, Y, and Z. Most of the power substations that I've worked on are having a backup transformer delivered with the original transformer, and all of the existing transformer farms that are out there, switching stations and whatnot, they're getting backup set aside, and they just sit there. They never rot. They never go bad if they're just sitting there. They're just full of oil. That's really all they are, just big boxes full of oil.
So even for the really big transformers, they're getting backups?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's really
that's
nice
new.
news. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, they're way behind. The other thing that they were doing out here is because of all the winds that we had in California and with all the stuff with the power lines causing fires and blah, 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 is that they were mandating because the companies have not, this is where we get into the corporate greed side of it. It's their fault for not maintaining their equipment and upgrading it and spending those millions of dollars on their CFOs versus upgrading their equipment. So in all the neighborhoods in Southern California, we were replacing the power poles behind people's houses. Something right here in Southern California had 8,000 power poles in your backyard that needed to be replaced because they were all 50, 60 years old and termite eaten and about ready to fall over.
That's the way most of mine were.
They weren't spending the money to upgrade all this stuff. The government came in and had to slap them and fine them and say, do this or else. And so that's what they were doing. So we were making an insane amount. We were working 100-hour, 120, 130-hour weeks to get these power poles replaced. They were spending an insane amount of money to do this. They're way behind. You see the fires. Oh my gosh, guys, I could go on and on and on. But they've also been hamstrung by liberal agendas and the environmentalists out there mandating green energy. Our governor just wants to make everything green energy, close down all the hydroelectric dams and all the nuke stuff and make it all windmills and photovoltaic farms. And you know where that takes us, right? We all know that the free market would never build those things because they're ridiculously expensive. And they don't put out the power when the clouds come by. I could tell you story after story. So
they're not. Yeah, the non-continuous power of them is a severe problem.
It's a problem, yeah. So I see the fault on both sides. I see the corporate greed, but then I see the politicians that are strangling these companies and not allowing it. Like they're strangling these companies the same way. Now, what do we do about it?
We sit here in the dark and wait for them to get off their lazy rear ends and do something stupid.
So, question on those backup transformers you saw them putting in. Do they set them like right next to the original, so all they'd have to do is move the lines, or would they actually need a crane to come out and move them?
It takes a crane, and it takes a big crane.
Damn. Yeah, see that if they put them right next to each other, I'd be like, oh, there's good planning. You know, if we had something go on and it's burned out, oh, we just switch over to the backup. But if you actually need a crane to come out and install it, sheesh.
You gotta shut down all the power lines. You got to disconnect them. You got to move everything out of the way. Pick the bad one up, swing it out of the way. Pick the new one up, and they are right next to them. And it still takes a crane. It's not like they have them on a ramp where they just, lift up the power lines, roll that one to the side, roll the new one in, put the things back. It's not that simple. It's a crane every time.
Dang. Yeah, because I'm just imagining, like, if you had like a solar storm come in or whatever, and say we burned out 50% of them. How in the hell are we going to get to every location in a timely manner to swap it?
Yeah. You don't. Well, you want a fun story?
Sure. I love stories.
So you guys probably heard about the solar plant. It's at State Line between Vegas and Los Angeles. So there's those three. It is a solar heat generation facility where they have a giant field of mirrors, right?
Yeah, I've seen that on like one of the Discovery channels or something once.
Yeah, because you can see it from space. It's insane. They have all these mirrors pointed at these giant towers. One of my friends was one of the crane operators that built these towers. And there's three of them. These towers are 500 feet tall, and towards the top is basically it's pretty simple. There's steam generators. It's a giant black tank full of water. Well, it's not water. It's a salt solution or something.
Yeah, it's a molten salt system. Yeah.
Yeah, they get better evaporation and fluid flow and all that stuff. All those mirrors are focused on that tank, and it generates steam, and it's a steam generation plant. Works great. They spent millions building this place, but the weather studies that they did were insufficient, and they did not take into account the amount of cloud cover that comes across in the desert through Vegas every year. Their power output was 50% of projected output levels.
Oh, joy.
Talk about a snafu. Then one of them caught fire, and they had to change out something. They had to bring in a big giant crane to fix what was going on out there. It was a big deal.
Yeah,
that's just one of many stories I can tell you of how much money that these people are being forced to spend by our politicians to go green.
Or just plain it out. I mean, I'll wait. My tin hat's not on yet.
Yeah. Well, there are several things that just drive me. And I can't use the terms I want to use because I'll get dinged. But bat blank blank crazy.
Crazy people. What the heck, Gil?
No. Yeah, crazy people that allow things to happen. And this comes from where I used to work, Homeland Security. And the fact that I can go online, and let me bring this one up here. There's hundreds of these online, all the things you need to know. Oh, I now know where every wind, solar, natural gas, coal, nuclear, conventional hydroelectric, and other are located throughout the United States as of December 2018. Whoa.
What were
Easy
the
to
blue
find. Huh?
What were those blue dots?
All right, the blue dots, I'll put it back up so you guys can see it again. The blue dots here are conventional hydroelectric. The orange or the yellow dots here are solar. The green mostly through here are wind. The red ones are natural gas. The gray ones are coal. The orange ones are nuclear. Blue is conventional hydroelectric, and then the kind of purplish dark ones like here and here are other types of ones that aren't classified on there. So
I did not know there was that much wind in the Midwest. I knew there was quite a bit through Texas and stuff. I didn't know there was that much going up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But if you notice,
go ahead.
If you notice, most of the power plants and the nuclear ones are on the East Coast.
Yeah.
But there was one down there close to you, Reed.
Oh, there's all sorts of interesting stuff out here. New Mexico is surprisingly entertaining.
Yeah.
I wonder your idea of entertainment.
So
it makes most people run away in terror.
So I'm going to throw up a map that Reed gave me here earlier. Let me get it, bring up there. It's coming up, and bring it up. So Reed, you want to explain what this is?
Okay, so I made a quick map on this using one of the public information tools. And so that map there, all those lines show all of the power lines that are over 345,000 volts. The big transmission lines. And as you can see, they run across all of the U.S. And these things carry around 75% or greater of all of the power used in America and stuff. And you can see these are not small lines. They are big. That's also why they are so high in voltage, so they can go very long distance.
Yeah.
And stuff. But the other thing is, if you look at all those lines, they have very, very large transformers at the other ends to get the power in and out of them. Yeah. They are massive units. They, size of homes. They weigh, 400 tons. They're filled with 35,000 gallons of oil or something like that. And stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to mute because I was laughing at somebody's comment, Anthony.
Anthony's out there. Excuse me.
Which one's Anthony?
Palmetto.
Palmetto prepared. Yeah. Yeah. If you guys aren't
I live in the
subscribed
open
to
spot.
Anthony, go out there. Connect up with Palmetto prepared. He also does some great cooking stuff. But let's see.
Just don't ask what the secret ingredient is.
He just told everybody.
Okay.
And
All
he
right,
blamed
so-
it on you. He said it's because of your maps. He keeps digging up the X and coming up with cat poop.
Okay, I'm going to enlarge this just a little bit here and bring this next one up. This is similar to the one we just had up, except it's color coded. And if you can see, I know most of you are on a phone or something, you're not going to be able to see it very well, but the different colors down here, and I'm going to read off what these colors are here. The real pale one, like right here, is 115,000 volts. The darker purple ones, a little bit darker, is 138,000. The green ones, 161,000 volt lines, kilovolt, 160 kilovolt lines. The yellow ones, 230, and the kind of pink reddish ones here, 345,000 volts, and then the other light purple ones, which would be about like right in here or something, 500,000 volt lines. So yeah, and you can see how they go everywhere and how deeply embedded they are around the population areas. So there are major transformers out there. Now, just to give you an example, back at during Y2K, I was helping Bank of America get their data center in Concord, the biggest data center they have. It's a campus of 7 buildings, and I was helping them get it ready for the Y2K, panic. Their one building on the roof has 7 railroad locomotive engines powering generators. They have enough power to reverse feed and run the city of Concord, California.
Wow.
In the basement of this building are 2 big, huge rooms full of batteries. These batteries are 3 feet tall and 18 inches by 24 inches, rectangular. The power from PG&E comes in, goes through the, I'm going to say it wrong, Reed, the rectifier, downs it to
the rectifier turns it to DC.
Yeah. Into the rectifier, runs it into these batteries. It comes out of the batteries, back into an inverter, and goes to all the buildings. That way, if the power goes out, it's still running on battery because it runs on the batteries all the time.
Yeah, it's called a double conversion system. They're the most reliable.
And during that second and a half that the power is out from PG&E, it takes a second half for our generator one of the generators to spin up and start charging the batteries again.
And all those batteries, actually, most of those places, they only budget for like 30 minutes. So as the batteries age, they can still cover the time. So they're only covering the time needed to start the generators and get going. The only place I know that actually by law has a requirement to have battery banks to run for like 8 hours is the telephone central offices, and that's to keep dial tone live, when everything's out. And we're quite, but that's only on landlines. Cell towers, who knows?
Yeah, that's why most landlines are a viable source in a immediate grit down situation. You're still going to get your 3.5 to 5 volts off that power line for upwards of 4 or 5 days, even if we lose power completely. Up from anything other than CME EMP, we'll still have that 5 volts on that phone line for over a week.
Quickly, hi Russ. Russ Happy Off Grid, a veteran of off grid living, is here.
Tyler.
Yeah, hey Tyler. So one of the interesting things is to charge
Preparation.
to run the entire campus, they only need one of those generators running, but they got 7 up there. Why? Because Bank of America knows how to cover their and keep power so they don't lose money by losing their data.
Unlike what bank? Who learned their
Not
lesson
bitter,
the
are
hard
we?
way?
I can't
Huh?
remember. I'm having a brain fart.
Wells Fargo.
Yes. Oh, and
Wells Fargo also likes to open accounts for your dead relatives, you know?
Right.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So they have, they run, so basically for Y2K, we changed out all the batteries in their battery room, in the battery rooms. We changed out the batteries that on the generators up there to start the generators. And they weren't needed to be changed. The batteries for the generators weren't needed to be changed out for another 3 years. They change them out every 5 years, whether they use them or not.
Wow.
They just changed them out. And they donated all these to a historical railroad society to run their diesel electric engines. But the other batteries, I mean, they're taking out, and the company that was changing them out goes, we're gonna recycle these. There's still so much life left in them, but they changed everything out. So our government doesn't do stuff like that, except at certain facilities, which I'm not going to talk about. But the power companies don't do anything like this, and that's the problem. I wanted to bring up is that a corporate company covered themselves and were getting ready so they wouldn't lose money. They spent money on it. It worked great. Everything went fine. All the executives that pushed for this to be done got their bonuses. Other power companies are getting their bonuses without taking care of their business, and the public is paying the price for it. So I'm getting off my soapbox now.
Well, the thing is, there's a good majority of the people, and they've seen kind of images in movies, but most people don't realize how real they actually are. And our ABC groups, we won't go any further than saying that, have server farms. Every one of those server farms could power a small city with what they've got on backup alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And those server farms they're basically nothing more than 2 or 3 supercomputers buried underground, a mile or 2 deep, with enough generating power above to power small cities.
Yeah.
Well, the standard data center, just the basic data center, has a 2 megawatt generator to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a pile of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, when everything comes apart, I'm raiding the data centers for parts.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Well, yeah, those generators that were up on top of Bank of America, when I was up in there, going around with them and stuff, the engine, like I said, these were locomotive engines, and the generator units attached to them were taller than me. So yeah, but
yeah, that's why I'm glad I live next to AK Steel, because AK Steel has a couple of those locomotive generator systems sitting out there, which is one of the reasons our power over here flickers so much, is because AK Steel steals so much of it. Anywho, there's a railroad track not that far from me, so I can I'm going to go steal some power.
At the substations and stuff, the transformers that Scott was saying he sets in place. This is how they bring them in. Either they bring them by laying temporary railroad tracks in, or from the railroad tracks they put them on rigs like this. These are 10-wheeler wheels down here. Okay, these are massive wheels on these trucks here, and they just bring them in and haul it in and set them up. And so
that's a smaller one. That's not even one of the big ones.
No, that's not. That's one of the smaller ones. Yeah. They're just, they bring them in on those trucks, and they just, it's just incredible what they do with these trucks to get them to the cranes, where the cranes can do stuff with them. This one's a little bit bigger. But yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that should handle my needs for a day or two.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, imagine trying to replace 50% of those in the country all at once. Oh,
Right.
Oh,
Tibor, yes, you're
10%.
correct.
Try doing 10% all at once.
Tibor makes a point that some people who have solar powers, they're by contract in certain states and areas, they have to feed any extra to do their power company.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Florida, I guess there was when the hurricane came through, there were all those posts about that people in Florida were required to be grid tied. So even though they had solar, they had no electricity at their home when it was down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's bring something else up here. So yeah, I already showed, don't need to show that one. So let me bring, actually this is, so this is actually the, see if I can get this one up here. Yeah, I'm going to enlarge it a little bit for you guys. This is how they transport them by train. This is the generator. This is the rail car that the transformer sits in. That's just a small one. Yeah. So, but as far as I'm going to take it down from, we've been talking to big here. I'm going to bring it down to a little bit smaller here, guys, and bring this here up here. Okay. Anybody know what this is? And no, it is not a circuit board.
Looks like a neighborhood map.
It's exactly. What's that, Reed?
Houses.
Houses, yeah. All right. So this is your streets, and all your houses, and then the orange dots here.
My wife said Thomas Guide.
Thomas Guide. Yeah. So these dots here are transformers, and the black, green, blue, and red lines, those are your transmission lines. And let me blow this up a little bit bigger if I can here.
Oh God, Tibor.
So you see it coming from this transformer here,
Ew.
and it's going out to all the houses. And this transformer goes out to those houses. So that's, those are
Can we put another moderator on timeout? Throw the wrench at another wrench holder.
Who are we got Anthony, Reed, Tibor, Gene. We've got a bunch of moderators out there. Who's misbehaving?
No,
Tibor. He's no worse than Jay. He's being just mischievous. That's all.
He's being mischievous. Okay, just as long as he's not being totally
Nope, he's
mean.
good.
He's good. All right, Tibor.
Okay, somebody wants to make her nightly appearance.
All right.
Everybody say hi.
Hey, Titan.
Hello. What's his name or her name?
That's Titan.
Oh, Titan?
Yep. Okay. Now, the transformers I was just talking about are these that you see on the transformers out front of your house.
Yeah, the things we used to shoot as a kid with 22s, right?
Yeah, as kids. And what we didn't realize that liquid as kids and we're shooting at them was that the PPC. Oh, can't pronounce it now.
PCBs?
Yes. Yeah. That nasty carcinogen crap that was leaking out that we didn't know about. Nobody cleaned up really back in the day. But now these are transformers and stuff, running, hooked up. You got your transmission line up here, transformers here, then it goes down to the houses off the smaller lines. And so, there are a lot of components to the grid to make up everything. And
they realize that they all work just fine until some dummy lets all that pretty blue smoke out of it. Oh, and there's no way to put that darn blue smoke back into them.
Yeah. And here's what's interesting. It doesn't have to be a real live person. Let me get this up here.
Hold on. I got to mute you because I don't want Titan hearing this.
Yeah, this map.
Every one of these, see these little nuts here? Every one of these is a squirrel that has interacted with a substation and brought that substation down.
Yeah, I love interacted when you mean they burst into flames and disintegrated.
or just popped like a popcorn kernel and just went and disappeared.
Barbecued squirrel.
And so, yeah, that's, so the squirrels, do have a very bad problem with it. And get this other one here back up so I can get this one.
Palmetto prepared. Yeah, but you got lots of birds. They have the same effect.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk something a little bit simpler here. And we went to the simple. Now we're going to go step it back up. You all seen your neighborhood substations. So you have like this here is showing a 32,000 volt line coming in over here.
And that's just a little neighborhood one.
Yeah, the little neighborhood one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They have up here, they got lightning aerials to ground the lightning when it gets struck by lightning so it doesn't trigger everything. They got air brake switches on them. Goes in. Yeah, it's a little special switch that basically it opens it in the. Basically, it's not set. What's going on here? Okay, it's not set in the in oil. Comes down into a oil circuit breaker. Goes across the piping grids here into a step down transformer, through voltage regulators, through a metal CAD switching gear, up through distribution buses, and has got cutout switches here, and then it goes out as 7.2 thousand volts. So it went from
that's the stuff. Yeah, that's mainly what's in the neighborhood distribution is around 7,000 or so.
Yeah, and then it goes out to the distribution lines here to go out to those other transformers I showed you to drop it down so it can go into your house.
And actually, if people are wondering, so the stuff around that you see, like, in the neighborhoods and all that, and you see the trees up in it, that's why the trees aren't arcing and setting everything off, because the voltage isn't high enough to conduct through the tree. Now, the ones that are, 23.5 or 35,000 volts and up, the trees will major issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what started our campfire about 6 months ago up here and killed a bunch of people.
Yeah. So
and actually, Google, go to YouTube and type in transformer explosion. There's lots of neat videos of them. Of them just blowing up.
Here in New York.
Yeah, we're not going to do that here, but
that was cool. That was neat looking at the sky on that one. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So guys, just out there, in the side chat, you Google it yourselves. All right. So transformer explosions. Yeah. You'll get intoxicated just watching all these things going boom. Ooh, pretty lights.
It's interesting. And there's neat videos of them where you can literally watch it go down the line. You'll see them just pop all the way down the line and stuff. It's pretty wild.
That one from New York, actually, right in front of that gas station, you've seen the big blue explosion off the distance, and then right there at the gas station, you start watching transformers pop right in front of it. Yeah. See, I have a double jeopardy problem because right here, right behind my apartment, is the neighborhood high voltage lines, and 100 yards that way, about a football field's distance, I've got the real high tension lines, the ones that are up on the big towers, 60, 70, 80 feet in the air. So if those fall on the lines next to my house, guess what? I'm out. I'm done. I am in the dark.
Yeah. Now, guys, if you want to have some fun, get yourself a fluorescent tube. Go walk out in the field underneath those big high tension lines at night. All of a sudden, it lights up and it's like a lightsaber.
Well, see, that's what the Social Security doctor said I was crazy. And I told him, I said, well, I do live under high tension lines.
Yeah. So that's, there's that much static electricity around it's not actually static electricity, is it, Reed?
It was the electromagnetic field.
Yeah, around those high tension lines that they will light up fluorescent lights.
Now, it only works for AC current lines. Mm-hmm. High voltage DC doesn't do that because it's the AC cycling which causes the light to light up like that. High voltage DC won't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can personally attest to that as well. Growing up in Oregon, I used to work in the fields moving irrigation pipe, 40-foot long 3-inch, 4-inch aluminum pipe And then some of those fields run underneath those high voltage lines. They said, do not ever carry those pipes as you're moving them to the next station parallel. Always carry those perpendicular.
Oh yeah,
The one time that I tried, I'm like, well, it can't be that bad. Landed me on my butt, and I dropped that pipe because the inducement, the current that it was induced from that magnetic field from those high voltage, and they were the big ones. It knocked me on my butt. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's why the government went nuts back. Oh, I don't know, what was it, 10? Maybe not quite, but 8 years, maybe 10.
Willamette Valley, WD.
There was a big push for people to set up so-called power stations underneath those to get free energy, and there was actually some people that got killed doing that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. When I worked construction years and years and years ago, one of the other operating engineers just looked up the street from me, and his backyard bordered the PG&E right away that those big towers went through. Well, he had a pool in the backyard, and he was getting sick and tired of paying the electric bill for lighting the backyard when he had parties. So someone told him about the fluorescent tubes, and he took a bunch out there and just hung them on the fence, lit up his entire backyard for free during his parties.
Well, though, lighting isn't that expensive. I don't see why. Well, it's neat, but I don't think he was saving all that much cash.
Yeah. But then he found out then that why his the fluorescent lights in his house were buzzing when they were turned off at other times. But it's the big. The higher the voltage, the bigger the range. Obviously, Yeah.
A couple thousand volts, you're gonna have to be a lot closer to it. 500,000 volts, yeah, you got a pretty good range on it, and stuff. Actually, there's a video. I mean, not video. You can go to Wikipedia and look at coronal discharge, and it's a neat thing. They show these insulators and stuff, and because the voltage is so high, it literally, you can see it just kind of the electrons just come bleeding off of the wires and stuff, and they actually lose a lot of power to coronal discharge, just lost to the air, because those high voltages are just so high. So they do all this engineering trying to remove all these sharp edges and stuff, because it's the points. It's when the edge of the points where it forms, where it causes things to arc off and stuff like that. That's why Tesla coils are round at top and so on and so forth. And sorry, guys, tangent for you.
Hey, that's information. Yeah. So with all these things going on here, I want to show one little more quick. And this is a board game that's out there, and this is the one for the U.S. All right, and it's about the electrical, and it's about setting up a grid. It's called the Power Grid board game. But looking at this, now I'm going to get into an area which makes me kind of chap my hide. Basically, this is kind of pointing out where the transmission points are throughout the United States, and where you got multiple ones coming together, like this one here, and this one here, and this one here. Basically, there are actually maps out there that should tell what those transfer and transformer stations are. These would be points that if you are a person of ill intent, and I'm going to take it down because I want to get everybody to look at it to get my map over here. Those points,
man, I almost had it mapped out.
There are points on there that are on prime alert observation for the FBI, Homeland Security, Department of Energy, because if one of those stations goes down, the residual backwash effect could take out others. And basically, back, I'm trying to remember when it was. I had it up and I accidentally closed the website for it. Back in back east, there was that back. I think it's back in the 60s, 68, 65. They had the big power outage that took out all New England and part of Canada,
Ohio.
And so it was because of one transformer went, and the relay, the overload relays didn't work and went right on down the line, and it just, yeah.
And actually, one point to bring up, so something people may not realize is those really, really high voltages like that, most of the circuit protection, most of the stuff we have is still mechanical machines. Solid state stuff doesn't operate at super high voltages like that. A lot of this stuff is very analog and mechanical. Failures are definitely going to happen.
Yeah, because even though the entire grid is supposedly interconnected and on computer, well, the computer tells this relay to do this. This relay turns on this mechanical motor to run it, and it takes time. Things don't always switch, and if that mechanical motor hasn't been tested and kept up, it could fail. And now you have a switch that's not working because they don't want to shut it off and test it all the time like they should, and just reroute power around. It's too much trouble for them and makes them spend a little money to have more people to work and actually make sure the system works right. It went, you can lose the whole system really quick. And that's one of the big problems with our grid. That's like Reed was saying, it needs to be broken up into regionals that's so massively interconnected across the country.
And actually, sorry, go ahead, Gil. Well, I was going to say, Anthony brought up, he's like, why don't we have little regional things? And actually, that's a good thing to talk about. Why is everything so interconnected nowadays? And the good answer to that is, well, yeah. And you can blame a huge chunk of that on Enron and their lobbying for power trading. To be able to trade the power required interconnecting all these different grids and stuff. And then the second one, that's the huge other issue, relates to everyone saying, not in my backyard. No one wants generator stations near them and everything else. So they put them way out there. And the only way to get everything connected is to interconnect it all. And so that's why everything is so tied together nowadays.
Brings to mind an old survival movie. I can't remember the name of the movies. There's actually a couple movies in the series. But it's about a hacker who shuts down a grid and causes a massive power surge when they bring it back up.
Yeah,
I can't think of the name of the movie off the top of my head right now. But it pinpoints the issue that there are checks and balances, and if part of the grid goes down, they're going to start feeding power from other parts of the grid to that area to try and bring people, hospitals back online, your banking, the major infrastructure back online. So let's say, one here in Ohio goes down. Well, New York's going to start feeding it through the eastern side of the power grid, and the Texas side will start feeding some up. They'll start pulling power from other grids. And if for whatever reason that little power problem here in Ohio is suddenly fixed and they don't get, nobody knows it, all that stuff's going to come back and start doing a feedback and cause a major collapse.
Yeah.
So one of the guys in the comments mentioned the one in 2002 where we had that huge one over on the East Coast in Canada and all that. Do you guys remember in the news where they were saying they wanted people to turn off their air conditioners, turn off all the stuff in their house while they were trying to get things stabilized and brought back up? And that was part of the problem and stuff. And actually something else that people don't know about the power grid. So, in our house, we have circuit breakers. We have stuff like that. The power grid, not really as much on circuit protectors. They only have things like to shut out in case of like severe limits. So when you hear things, power lines sagged and, and then they overloaded, people don't usually understand what that means. So the power grid, the power lines you see up in there, so those are distribution lines. And when they have a huge, really, really big demand, instead of, like if you put too much stuff on your home circuit, the breaker goes. Well, we don't have breakers there. So the line heats up so much because most of the lines everywhere are called ACSR, aluminum conductor, steel reinforced, and there's also ACSS, aluminum conductor, steel supported. Well, as they get hotter, they stretch. And eventually, when they touch the ground, then it shorts out. And that's what often takes out a lot of things. And so when you have, like if you lose a transformer, they count on other distribution paths to take on the load. If you lose a couple, yeah, that's down too because those lines are going to sag. It's too hot. It'll just eventually touch the ground and short out.
Yeah, and you'll get problems like that when you get multiple things feeding into it, or a generator or a generation plant is down, and all of a sudden it comes up back online and they don't communicate right. till these guys start dialing back. And so you have all this power coming in. Now the generator is pushing all this power out, and now you're pushing more power down the lines. Not that even though it's needed, but it's being pushed, and it's got to go somewhere. And so you'll get problems. So you get power surges and spikes, and down in the residential areas.
Well, a lot of the power surges and spikes relate to a lot of the. Okay, how do I not make everyone think I'm a nerd? But so basically it's related to the electromagnetics fields coming online and collapsing because transformers are like inductors, and so inductors can cause spikes and all that. So when you see stuff bouncing up and down like that, it's basically stuff coming online and going back off and all that, and it causes these huge spikes in the grid. Yeah, that's about as low down as I can, without making everyone give a headache. I'll stop there.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we talked about on some other chats, as a side thing about electrical and stuff, you're talking specifically about like people's for their solar panels and stuff they have at their home and their solar generation systems, that when the solar power is putting out more than their batteries, and batteries are now fully charged, it's still putting out more than they're using. What was that term you said we need to have installed to keep us from burning our batteries up in systems? The heat sink type thing or whatever. Reed, what was that?
Oh, sorry, Gil. Can you repeat?
The for like our home solar power systems and stuff, we have it's producing more. The batteries are fully charged and it's kicking out energy and stuff. And you were talking about a
well, that's for wind. That's a diversion load.
Wind, but the load thing to basically you said it produces heat, and just burns up.
Yeah, that's a diversion load, and it's basically a heat coil. On solar systems, the solar charge controllers, they can just shut off the solar panel.
Okay.
Because the solar panels are fine to just be shut off. So it actually just prevents them from putting more energy into the batteries. But wind power, the generators, those turbines, they have to be regulated. So you have a diversion load. So if your batteries get to a certain point, the charge controller, when dealing with the wind, sends the extra power to a diversion load so that you can keep the wind turbine regulated so it won't spin out of control and self-destruct, basically.
I got something to say on that too. I've been networking a lot with a couple different suppliers of hydroelectric from my place because I'm off grid up in Idaho. One of the guys is Langston's Alternative Energy out there in North Carolina. Anyway, the micro hydro was the same way. You had to have a diversion load. So a lot of guys that were the early hot micro hydro stuff had a diversion load. So guys were putting up electric baseboard heaters in their houses and their basements and stuff. And when the batteries got full, they'd start and electric water heaters and all kinds of stuff. And they were heating up big barrels of water just to divert the load. Well, now the new updated micro hydro has come a long ways, and I'm going to be doing that on my place when I get up there. They have rectifier. No, not rectifier. Dio, you can tell me, Reed.
Well, they have solid state
diode
systems.
Controllers that basically eliminate the need for a diversion load.
Oh, neat. Okay, so they don't need that then. Huh. That's really nice to see that they're making changes there.
Yeah.
Because the diversion load's always been a pain to deal with sometimes.
Right.
Because it's like Germany. Here's a great example. So Germany, a lot of times when they put tons and tons of wind all over Germany, and so when they had so much wind and all that, they literally had to pay other countries near them to take their power so that they could, they wouldn't damage a lot of their turbines.
Right.
Yeah, but I could see it for micro hydro because the smaller systems, they're going to be easier to control. So it means they've been doing something with the electronics now.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that.
Controller really eliminates a whole bunch of extra circuitry, baseboard heaters, all kinds of unnecessary stuff. And, the generator obviously still keeps spinning, but the power is just not going there. It's basically shutting off the power, basically. So
now, when thinking about it though on hydro, I could see the water. If you design the impeller system correctly, I bet you the water could act as a sort of a self-regulator. Just a hunch on my own end. I could see that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I'm
Yeah,
just
there are things that
We're
come-
right there. Reed, you and I need to have a list. We'll just do our own next week, and we'll just talk amongst ourselves.
there you go.
there are some of the hydroelectric ones for homes and stuff where what they do is they install a solid state controlled diverter valve. So basically it just passes the water around so there's not the turbine isn't spinning up at high speed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it shuts down the amount of water going to it or something,
Yeah,
right?
just diverts it around so the water's still coming down, still has its all its pressure, so it can flick back quickly if there's a big load draw, and it can meet the load draw.
Well, usually for most of the little hydro systems, they always recommend having a small battery bank and inverter to cover that and to cover, maintenance. Like if you got to work on stuff so you can shut things down. And things.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot. I mean, sometimes creeks freeze, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, like, up in where Scott's at, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll go upstream, make a small dam, get a reservoir there that won't freeze, lay pipe from the bottom of it underground downhill till they get to the level where they're going to get enough flow, and put underground, like in a manhole, their generator.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That'd also be easy to service.
Yeah, and that way it goes down, and they have they'll have manual diverter valves so they can run the water around it and pull that turbine out, drop another turbine in, or whatever they need to do.
Yeah, one thing awesome about hydroelectric is it runs all the time, right? You're just going to have to shut down for maintenance, replacing bearings and other stuff like that. So you don't have to have a massive amount of battery to cover things.
Right.
And that is a really good plus. I mean, for people that make off-grid solar, do off-grid solar, you really sort of understand, because you have to have the batteries and all this other stuff. You really understand, to be independent, to make enough energy for your own needs, how hard it is. It ain't simple. And so it kind of annoys me when you see all the ads, solar will save us. And I'm like, you are not telling the whole story.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's a homestead south of me here, about 80 miles. Most people probably heard about it, Red Poppy Ranch. His system he put in, and all the things he went through on it, and he wound up changing out his entire battery bank of lead acid batteries, and got the lithium ion irons, or iron phosphate.
LiFePO4.
Yes.
Iron phosphate.
He put those
lithium
in.
iron phosphate.
And I mean, I think that those new batteries are like a third the size of his lead acid ones.
Well, no, the weight. They're a lot less heavy. A ton less heavy.
They were much smaller, but they were, like you said, half the weight. But
yeah, they were smaller. Because you seem to carrying these big ones out, and they're carrying these smaller ones in, and but yeah,
now, the LiFePO4 batteries, a lot of them, they claim most of the raw cells are engineered, say, around 2,000 to 3,000 cycles, and so a lot of the batteries they're making, they've been saying, like, if they're energizing, they're saying they're rated for, like, say, this much power output, right? This much power they'll hold. And that turns out they're only discharging the cells about 70% of the way. So then they're actually saying they can get around 10,000 cycles out of them. Now, if true, a 10,000 cycle battery is like a 15-year battery. It's a really good battery. Yep. The only thing that stinks about lithium, the two things I don't like currently about lithium that I'm hoping we see some changes on, is right now it's very expensive, and we are seeing a nice drop on that. It is dropping. But the second one is the batteries require. What was that, Scott?
Why is that dropping?
Well, because they're making more and more of, obviously, laptops, cars, all that stuff.
Well, they're hiring a whole bunch more Chinese children to go out and dig it out. So I'm sorry, I had to.
No, it's fine.
Thank the radio control industry for that, because if it wasn't for RCs, and I'm not talking the Walmart cheapy crap, I'm talking hobby grade, and there are people who make millions of dollars as drivers every year playing with them. they helped those companies develop those batteries for high output, high cycle rate. That's why some of these battery companies that are producing these newer, more exotic batteries, they push them to the RC industry first and say, here, guys, try these and see if they blow your car up just because your car costs close to $2,000.
Right.
You know, try this $600 battery. And it's
those
because
batteries,
of those. Go ahead.
Yeah, those batteries in the RC world, though, they're the ones like on the electric cars and all that, where they're asked for
Right. But it's the
most power in the smallest package.
Right. And
it's those are a different chemistry than LiFePO4.
Right. But
yeah.
Go ahead. Never mind.
No, I see what point you're at. My point was on the stationary one. They're different style of batteries, because like in the car and RC world, it's how much energy can cram into the smallest, lightest package, and
expel it as quickly as possible. And it's through the technology of being able to keep those membranes from touching each other at that heat, because that generates a ton of heat. Some of these batteries will come off a car at 200 degrees. Okay, that's you ain't touching that with your bare hand stuff. It's because of that technology over the last 25 years. And I've been in RCs since the late 80s, and I've watched the technology grow. And as we were playing with lipos before they were putting lipos in laptops. Okay, they were still putting nickel cadmium in laptops, and we were playing with lipos back then. So I mean, I'm not saying they're the only ones, but it's a lot of that industry has brought new advancements to that technology to allow us to have a battery bank sitting in the basement of a house that can, take charging off solar and then bring it back into the house for a refrigerator.
Now,
so you're saying the RC crowd was you guys were the test dummies for all the big stuff?
Some of it, yeah.
Elon Musk was happy and decided to put them in his cars, in his big cars.
I received from GM Manufacturing a set of lipos back in 1987, 88.
Wow.
And it wasn't a pretty experience. They replaced all my equipment, but it didn't go very well.
Well, lithium batteries, actually, the early stuff started prototyped back in the 50s and 60s. It's taken a long ways to get here. And the stuff, but also like what he was pointing out, so the stuff in an RC is high drain. I mean, lots of power fast. If you look at the specs of the power on like the solar lithium batteries, they have a maximum draw list. So like if you have like a bunch of inverter power, you actually need a bunch of those lithium batteries so you can actually reach the max safely. They're actually different chemistry designs and stuff like that. Like lipos run, I think, like 3.65 or 3.7 volts. Lithium LiFePO4 is 3.2, 3.25. So they're different and stuff like that. Also, LiFePO4s, they're a great interchange for lead acid because the voltage is real similar. 4 of them together about 12 point something volts.
Yeah, where your lipos are higher output, higher voltage.
Yeah. Now, the only other thing I don't like about lithium, though, that I want to see someone change is they require battery management systems. So there's active electronics on the batteries, managing their balancing and everything else like that. And I have not seen a battery yet out there that has serviceable electronics. They're all sealed. And basically, they're like, if something goes wrong in the electronics, you have to send the whole battery in. And I'd love to see someone where had the electronics as like a card you could remove, and the cells, the little individual cells, is another card. So if you had bad cells or bad electronics, you could have spares and swap pieces out.
I can explain in very few words why they don't do that. McDonald's
money,
hot coffee
right?
McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit.
Oh yeah.
That's why. Because there will be some gently uneducated person who will go out there and do the exact opposite of what they're supposed to. They'll put it in backwards. It'll cause a massive explosion somewhere, and then they're going to blame the manufacturer for not telling them properly.
How many of these can I hook up in a series? Woo!
Yeah. Well, one of the things too is on the quote solar generators, and everyone, so you get on the same page. A solar generator is not a generator; it is basically a battery pack that is supposed to be charged off the sun. A friend of mine who I was hoping was going to make it in here tonight, he didn't make it, does testing of all these solar generators on his own. He doesn't
I want to talk to him though,
Yeah.
because what I would like to see, like Reed was saying, the batteries that are set up for those are low draw, slow drain. I'd like to see somebody replace those with a high capacity RC style battery. The connections are all the same. The numbers of wires are all the same. The voltage, capacity, and withdrawal rate, some of these are rated at 70 to 100 C, which is huge, draw rate. But if you only trickle draw that, those batteries will last a super long time and they don't get hot. So I'd like to see somebody take and swap those, the low draw batteries out with the high draw to see if there's any perceivable gain, because some of them RC batteries are cheaper than the batteries they put inside those solar boxes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I'll see about getting Ben together with you on that so you guys can talk about that. But when he was testing some of these solar generators that are rated with a 1500 watt inverter, the problem was they had a 500 watt max output limit on the battery in it. So the battery would only put out so much, but the inverter can handle 3 times that. Now, some of these have, what they do is they have a setup where you can hook up an external battery to it to be able to, now you hook up another 500 watt output battery. Now you're getting there, you can hook a third one up, so now you can have your 1500 watts. But he was also explaining the problem of just, you can't just hook them, you gotta make sure they're all fully charged to the same level when you hook them together, because it has problems if they're not fully. If you have one that's 50% charged, another one that's 75% charged, another 100% charged, you're going to have problems with the system.
Now, Reed, correct me if I'm wrong, but I could be, and it's been a minute since I played with electronics to this level. But if you've got a 500 power battery, 500 watt hour battery, you got a 1500 watt inverter. If you're trying to pull too much wattage, you're going to overheat things and cause things to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of they can do it probably for a little bit, but it's going to be a little bit. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's something they don't tell people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they put it in the manual, blah, blah, blah. It's people like, oh, I can run, like my hot water heater or something, right? When actually what they did is just tested it to the max limit for advertising purposes.
Yeah, and that's what Ben did. He tested these. He set up a bank of light bulbs. So he was pulling 1500 watts, and he timed it to see how long before it shut off. Yeah. And then he turned the light bulb off, and then he charged it back up. And he did it from 1500 watts, 1400 watts, 13, all the way down. And when he got to 800 watts, it could, even though it's a 500 watt battery in it, it would run for several hours at the 800 watts before it finally, it didn't trigger the shut off at 800 watts, and it went longer. But he's done a whole bunch of really cool videos on testing all of these different ones out.
What channel does he go?
Okay, his channel is Minute Man Prep.
Okay, I've got to go check him out because you got me curious about what he's doing. Because I'd really love to see, like a lot of these light bulbs are resistive loads, and they have a power factor of about 1. Inductive loads like table saws and other stuff like that, I'd really love to maybe ask him to try some tests on those, because a lot of these kind of systems cannot handle power factor well at all. They have huge problems with it.
So this is his page, his channel, Minuteman Prep, and he compares the different ones. He does, he goes through and does tests on the different type of panels. He has charts comparison charts of the solar generators and stuff he goes through. He's tested, like the
oh, neat, yeah.
Yeah, he's tested all these.
Definitely gonna have fun watching his channel.
I'll post the link here in just a minute.
Now, besides this,
I've seen this guy before,
and he's just down the street from me.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, he's just down the street from me here. And let's see here.
Did he do one of those Harbor Freight setups at one time?
No, I don't think so.
DIY portable solar panel stand mount, very affordable. That was one of his videos.
Yeah. So, anyways, let me bring this up here. There's him doing the test with a 1500 watt
Was that Kodiak thing?
That's the actually that's the newer version, the Apex, and he's hooking it up with a another ion lithium battery to see if it, if he can get it to go above the 500 watt limit, and he goes through and does everything on it. But the other thing down here, show more. His business is poweredportablesolar.com, and I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to throw that into the thing. But he has even more. And actually, let me just go put that here right now for you guys to see. I'll throw this up here so you guys can see it here. But he runs, he tests, he buys these them himself, and he tests all of these different things. He reviews them and tests them himself and compares them. And then he has the blog channel here. Does that go to it? I just takes the most current. I guess that's it was pulling off the blog on the first page, but he talks about how it works, how different things work, and he's right now he has become a distributor of one type specifically. But I'll let you guys go look at that one. But yeah, he has No,
it's nice seeing people go into details on this stuff.
Oh yeah, he goes into mega detail.
I really hate manufacturers on a lot of these things because they often just lie so bad. It's all marketing crap.
And that's what he exposes on some of it.
Yeah. The the solar industry's at least been really good for the most part, because when a lot of solar stuff, actually a lot of people did it for off-gridding. We wanted to be independent and all that sort of stuff like that. So people just wouldn't tolerate the inverter manufacturers listing only peak specs. They wanted to know what can it do continuously and at what temperature? How hot can it get ambiently before it starts derating stuff?
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of cheap stuff coming from one overseas country that they are just lying their pants off with about how what their stuff can do. So people buy it. Oh yeah, I can get a 3,000 watt inverter for $300. No.
Exactly. There we go. Now you gotta get
SOP, your mic's muted.
Figures. Yeah, shut myself up. Yeah, it's just like car audio amps. They'll put great big huge numbers on it. When you go inside and you check the MOSFETs and the circuitry in it, it's only rated for 50 watts, but yet it says 3,000 watts on it. If you get one of those, and I was tempted to get one of those inverters for the channel for this kind of stuff, and then actually take it apart and show what was inside and show how weak the stuff actually is, but I decided not to because I didn't want to waste my money.
Yeah,
because some of them aren't cheap.
Yeah, they're not.
Any really good inverter is going to have huge heat sinks on it. It's and stuff like that. And one of the other things is they're going to be heavy as heck because they have a massive transformer in them. For anything big, they're going to have a big transformer in them, and that costs money.
Yeah,
there's a lot of copper wire in these things and everything.
Yeah.
I have a 4,000 watt inverter for my system, and it's about 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, 4,000 watt. It's a pretty good size. It's old, but it works, and it's got.
Oh, which one? Trace Engineering?
Yes. No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not Trace.
Yes.
Xantrex.
No. Oh, you got me there.
Ladies and gentlemen, please do not mind the arguing amongst ourselves.
It's the old green and white one, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's Trace. That's Trace.
That's Trace.
Yeah. Those things were made like tanks. They are awesome inverters.
That's up in Idaho, right?
Yes.
Right.
Let
me guess, it's 23 years old now?
Probably. I bought the place from a lady that built it, and the house is it's about 23 years old now. And she had that thing pretty much right away when she built the house. So yeah, that's about right.
Oh yeah, they are great inverters. I have a couple saved that I picked up that are broken and I need to repair. But I haven't gotten after them yet, but I picked them up from going to the scrap heap.
4,000 watt ones.
Yeah, I've got 4,000s, and I got one of their 8,000. No, 8 or 6. Yeah, stashed away.
You know how much the new ones are. Those things are worth repairing and rebuilding.
Oh, absolutely.
The instruction manual's about that thick. I still have it. I need to be able to reprogram mine because it keeps makes the lights flicker. When I change everything out to LED bulbs in the place, and if I don't have a couple of LED bulbs on, it goes into rest mode. And so if I leave one bulb on,
probably should just stick it to always on.
Oh, geez,
yeah, just stick it to
always. Like 30 watts to stay on, though. So the newer ones don't use as much power to stay on. So,
well, you know, mine. See, I have 2 4,000 watt inverters, so I got 8,000 total.
Are you off grid?
I run air. No, kind of. I'm what I call grid backup. See, I have batteries and I have inverters and all that. When I don't make enough power, I have the grid go into the inverter and kick the charger on.
Oh, did you put that together yourself? Because I have solar city panels on my house here in California. I'm net metered.
Oh yeah, I engineered all my stuff together. I figured it all out my own.
Oh, I'm jealous.
But I do not sell power to the grid because
I'm even more jealous now.
Yeah, I sell no power to the grid because, you know, I want to be able to be independent.
Right.
So instead of a generator, I have the grid as backup.
Right. So you have a switch in your breaker box.
Well, yeah, basically there's a switch, and so if I get too low, I just turn it on, and there's an input onto the inverters, and so what it does is when it gets power, it starts a charging cycle.
Okay. So, but you have an actual electronic switch that you can turn it on, but then it'll switch over whenever the power level gets too low. So it doesn't automatically.
No, yeah, I turn it on. On. It's not electronic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And stuff. Well, the other thing though, it's actually a little more than that. It's like plug it in and turn it on because I want, if we had a solar EMP event, a CME, and a big geomatic storm, I didn't want it being connected all the time and taking my house with it.
Right. Well, of course. And the flip side to that is, like my solar city panels. I love my system, by the way, down here in California. It's saved me a ton of money. But that controller is set up so that obviously almost everybody here probably knows this, but once in a net metering situation, grid goes down, the inverter shuts off power so it doesn't backfeed. Say half the neighborhood's on fire, my panels will shut down so it doesn't backfeed power back into those lines that the fire department or whoever's working on thinks that they're dead. Oh, well, we got 5 solar panel homes on this block, and they're all backfeeding 30,000
you can kill
back
people
in and frying everybody.
Yeah,
so,
that's why they're designed for anti-islanding provisions, is because you can kill people. People don't get that.
Right.
And the other thing though is, like, in a lot of states, they actually have rules saying, like, you cannot have battery power if you're grid tied, because they don't even want to accept the risk. They don't believe in the safeties of the systems or anything. They're like, we don't want it.
That's changing. That's changed here. And it's just changed over the last couple of years, because that was one of the first things I wanted to ask was, hey, what about the battery backup system? Oh, we don't have it and we don't offer it yet. They started offering it I've had my system for about 5 years now. They started offering the battery backups about 2 to 3 years ago, but you had to pay cash for them. And they're going to come out and change the inverter because of the same exact issue. You have to change the whole inverter so that it will shut off that power so it doesn't backfeed into the system. Now you can buy battery backups out here.
Now, actually, since we're on this topic, so a good thing to know. So one of the things people don't realize about solar is it's been rather disruptive to the grid. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I love solar. Solar's amazing and all that. But, you know, like, okay, so like you have the power. Well, yeah, here's why it's bad to the grid, while we've had a lot of trouble on the engineering side of it. So you've got, like those pictures Gil had up earlier, you saw those distribution lines to the neighborhood, right? All those people connected in like that. Well, utilities oversubscribe lines. Every house may have 100 to 200 amp feed to the house, but not every house is pulling 100% of 100 amps or 200 amps all the time. So They say they rate lines only for a certain amount, and they say people are only going to use like 10% on average or something like that, right?
Right.
Okay, so when they put a lot of grid-tied solar, okay, and people are putting 10,000, 20,000 watts, and you get a neighborhood, they are actually putting out more power than those transmission lines can handle.
Right. That's why down here in California, they are only allowed 10% of the total customer base to have solar. There are markets that are already saturated, have reached their 10% saturation level. San Diego County was one of them. And there are no longer solar installation companies. Well, there are still a couple for individual specific installations, but the whole big blitz, the guy standing in Home Depot trying to sell you a whole solar system for your house doesn't exist in San Diego County because they've already reached their market saturation down there. And it's approaching that up here. I got mine way early.
Yeah, so they've actually been
because of that, what you just said.
Yeah, so they actually have a new UL standard, and let's see, what's it called? Because California was the driver of this, that you brought it up. It's a UL 1741. I just had to pop over and look at it because I couldn't remember off the top of my head. But so the inverters are now smarter, and what it is so they monitor the frequency of the grid, and so when the grid starts getting overpowered, the frequency starts drifting. So it goes from 60 hertz to like 60 and a half to 61 and stuff like that. So what it is the inverters enter a regulating mode when they see the frequency start drifting. So when the inverters will actually scale their output and shut down. So if you can put more
residential's inverters, because it matches the sine wave of what they're seeing, they change the frequency and it shuts our inverters down.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
But it's only on new stuff. It's called UL 1741 that covers all this interconnection and all that. And so you're going to see in more states, they're going to say all new stuff that's grid tied has to meet this so they can shut you down if they got too much power in the system.
Well, that's a safety issue.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So let's go ahead and put the tinfoil hats on. I just can't help myself. Okay, so they have that. They can do that automatically. Well, we can, they can obviously trip those manually. Oh well, these people are putting out too much power. We need to make a few more bucks.
Well, you can also, so all those Internet of Things devices, coffee pots are on the internet now. Toasters are going to be on the internet, all this crazy crap.
Right.
So imagine a hacker programs it so that every single house in a neighborhood, all their coffee pots come on at 8 a.m., run for 10 seconds, turn off, turn back on. You could make a harmonic on the grid and trip a lot of safety systems and shut down.
George,
so you could take down the grid. Yeah, you could take down the grid in an area, but not have to get access to some of the control systems of the utility, just tricking safety systems.
Now, along that thought, expanding on that thought, how long before these inverters are hooked up to the internet so the power company can control?
Oh, they're mandating that in other places already.
Yeah. All right. So now if that gets hacked, all of a sudden, all these solar houses that are producing power into the grid, the hacker turns them all off. 5 minutes later, turns them back on.
Yeah. Well, that's why they they want the inverters follow the information from the power lines and stuff. But you are right that a hacker could turn them on and off, and that would just make the natural gas standby generators go crazy for a while, which would be a problem in and of itself too.
It all goes back to money and control, man.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's one of the things is, so when you start putting more and more solar on roofs for grid intertie, you can overload transmission lines. Clouds can come by, drop it, and all that. So the more solar we had, the more natural gas standby generators we need.
Right. Yes, Tibor. It's like the smart meter. They're putting smarts in everything. Thank you, Kathy. Look at you go. Look at Kathy from Northstar Prep Center. Put your link for your UL 1741. Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
She is the queen moderator. She rocks.
Yes, she is great.
Love Kathy.
Yeah. All right.
Reed,
so
your cat's talking to you.
Oh, I know. She's just absolutely nuts. You know, it's like I haven't paid attention to her in a while. And she's like, "Hey, get off that live stream and pay attention to me, you twerp."
And my cat's doing the same thing. She keeps swatting her toys at my feet.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, Reed, you did. I got a remark on your system. How you set up your own system and you tied it into your panel. And I wanted to do that for a long time. I just couldn't afford all the stuff to do it at the time I wanted to do it. And I got a great deal on Solar City, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna sell this place anyway. And then we ended up buying an off-grid place up in Idaho. But I would have died to do that. I was looking at used Tesla batteries. Now, you know, Tesla sells their whole Powerwall thing, and it's, you know, it's expensive. But I am so jealous of what you did. That is fantastic. So you have cut the fan out. You have taken control. I like it.
Well, check out the channel. I'm actually rewiring a whole bunch of solar stuff right now.
Oh, trust me,
you'll get to
binge watching your channel real soon.
you will see a lot of rewiring going on. I've got I'm redoing some of the inverters and stuff right now and everything else. There's 2 playlists. One's called Solar Boot Camp, where I'm one of the ladies who's in the chat. Her name's Fringe Files. She's a millennial, and she jumped in at a young age and bought an off-grid homestead and is learning everything. But she has solar problems. So I'm making videos to instruct her how to repair it. We've gone through that. So you can check out one of those. It's called Solar Boot Camp. And then there's another playlist called Manifest Power, where I put all my other solar stuff in there, including all the rewiring and the rebuilding I'm doing right now. And I'll show panel wiring and everything else. Oh, what's up, SOP?
You do realize that Steve just said you know how to build a tiny nuclear reactor. Because who was it?
You know, I only took one nuclear engineering class.
Tibor wants to build a small one. Tibor wants to build a small one in his backyard. So Steve said,
"There you go."
Okay, all right, guys. I want to jump in here for a second here.
Sorry, Gil.
I threw a couple of links out there. The first one, I'm going to throw them out here again. All right. The one I'm putting in right now is about, there were a couple of videos put out today about it, about what happened up in Canada at the Pickering nuclear power plant, sending out blank messages on, oh, we got a new problem. And then, oh, never mind. Like it happened in Hawaii when they sent out that the message to everyone. Oh, we got a problem. Yeah.
Ballistic missile inbound. Take cover.
Yeah. Well, this was nuclear power plant going China syndrome, and so that's that one. The next these next 2 ones I'm putting back in again are for the one is from the Smithsonian Magazine, and the other one is hit the wrong button. There we go. Both these talk about the power grid, so you guys, everyone in the side chat, you can actually go and look at this stuff and see some of the images I was putting up there. Some came from here. Talk about where the distribution, how everything works, where the nuclear. These ones here, I trust you guys. I know you guys aren't terrorists. This is the stuff that pisses me off. Sorry, being former, about it's out there so the bad guys can just, oh, this is the one I need to go attack. Sorry,
tin hat time.
I know Gil and SOP both hate that stuff's out there, but I have to give my other side. Is one of the things that is awesome about America is we are a free country and we believe in freedom. Yes. And so by leaving stuff out there and telling all those people, we don't care, we're going to take you out, you ain't stopping our freedom, I like that. All right.
I'll go with that. Now, there was a couple.
I like you, Reed.
Yeah, I got the private chat here going on. So you guys out there on the side, you can't see the private chat here. So, solutions. All right. So, what are, we've talked. I think we've hit a little bit about some solutions, but the only thing for solutions, in my limited knowledge, I was a Class A general engineering contractor. Okay, so I dealt with water treatment plants, power plants. I took tests to do all that stuff. Dealt mainly with sewer treatment and water treatment plants, though.
Yeah.
Anyways,
A crappy job.
yes, it is, but it pays well.
It's
Hey,
never going to go away.
I got a big fat retirement fund on that.
Job
Anyways, for my
People are
my thought about solution is, Scott, you mentioned it that they're finally doing it. They're putting extra. Every time they're doing new ones, they're bringing in a second backup one. I think that now we need to let our elected officials know, hey, this needs to be expedited. We need more backups getting it. We need to start getting them. We need to bring some of that manufacturing back to the U.S. for manufacturing these transformers.
We already are.
I got a comment on that, Gil.
Yeah,
We used to make that stuff here.
I know.
Yeah.
And then unnamed congressional group
Yes.
raised taxes. That people that made that crap went overseas.
Yeah.
And now that technology is now owned by a foreign entity. We can no longer make that without going, reapplying for stuff and using their patents. We can't make it. And that's where some of this trade issue's been, is stolen intellectual property. We used to own those rights. We no longer own the rights to make that stuff. We can't make it here in the U.S. without paying them first. So that's why we're not currently making it.
There's got to be a way around that. There's always a way
Well,
around
that's
it.
one of the things.
Well,
Nothing attorneys in there.
Well, that's one of the things Trump's trying to do, is reverse all that stolen intellectual stuff and cut out all those loopholes that a certain other country has put into them, so we can actually go back to making our stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I was on another stream. We were talking about this, and I thought a U.S. company was going to start it again. I could not find it, so I may have been fake news, everyone. So I think we have nothing coming to the U.S. right now on this.
We don't,
unfortunately.
at least not that I've seen it. I've been trying to watch for it because, that is something we, as people wanting to be prepared for eventualities, I figure that is something that we need to keep an eye on, just in case it does come back here. We can start working toward getting our communities set up. We can't worry about the whole U.S. We need to worry about our community. And if we realize that certain things, even if they're only building, 200,000 volt, replacement systems, then we can talk to our communities and say, hey, we need to budget for these, so we've got backups. Once we get the communities doing backups, then we can spread it to the counties, and then to a statewide, then nationwide.
Yeah, recovery starts at home. It always does.
Mm-hmm.
So Reed,
actually, since we're talking about that, okay, so Gil, what do you think about, and you guys, I'll ask this question real quick and then I'll get to that one, but the Puerto Rico, that disaster, the entire U.S. was able to try to help, and it was that bad of a cluster screw. How bad will it be if the U.S. gets taken out by something?
10 times worse.
It's going to make Venezuela look like a day in the sand beach.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
All right.
Interesting idea.
The
nuclear subs. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, guys.
To answer your question before we jump on the nuclear sub, and actually it's not just subs, aircraft carriers and everything else.
You have a couple of subs parked off of Puerto Rico with some big power, some extension cords going.
Well, there's issues to that, which
they've done something like that with the aircraft carriers as far as water treatment and everything else. But for dealing with a major catastrophe like we're talking, a SHTF or even a Tawaki event, which is the worst. There is no way the government can take care of 1/100th of our population. The government's job, and they've realized, it's not our babysitter. That was one of the reasons after 9/11 they put up ready.gov, was to get people to get off their complacent arses and get out there and get prepared themselves.
I wish they would be a little more honest, though, because you can see in those papers they release how much they censor themselves as saying how bad it's going to be.
Well, you know who's doing all that censoring?
Yeah, I know.
a certain political party of the hand you don't shake with.
Right.
Okay, so anyway, so the government knows they can't do it. They're trying. FEMA went broke last year because of Puerto Rico. Anthony Palmetto Prepared, when they had their problem, they tried to get federal money. It's like, oh yeah, and they raised the bar of what you had to do because they had so little money left. So, anyways, and that has to do with the way where somebody, I'm not saying who, says, oh, we want to pork barrel this money into our pet projects for getting medical to the illegal aliens instead of funding FEMA like FEMA should be funded.
Oh, let's please not go there, because I got a list of 200
Yeah.
miles long of pet
not
projects in
even
the
go down
government that could really be put somewhere else.
Okay, so
let's avoid that one.
Okay, we're taking that hat off.
Aaron, you're right back onto what are we going to do about our own family?
All right, so Reed, what about nuclear submarines?
Well, okay, so
a little unrealistic.
well, a couple things about the nuclear-powered systems on aircraft carriers, submarines, and all that. They're very interesting reactors. They're actually operate off of highly enriched uranium, and they're called a fast neutron reactor. What's interesting about them is they run. They're not made for just electricity power. They also, especially on the aircraft carriers, produce a lot of steam, and so they have all these steam pipes to run equipment. The catapults are steam powered and all that. And in terms of actual electrical power, the government classified that. I mean, they don't tell you exactly what they're capable of, but we're not talking more than a couple megawatts here. So you're not really going to power big areas. And
they're also short term. Their service life is 20 years. Every 20 years. And that's why there's some being decommissioned right now, because they've actually went twice. They've been reserviced once, and they're coming up on their second reservice. And I'm not 100% positive on it, but I was told once that they can only do 2 reservices on a nuclear reactor before the internal components are of such a degradation that they become semi-unstable. So they decommission them and then clean all that crap out of it.
Yeah,
that's probably true. I don't know enough about that to answer one way or the other. What I do know is that he's right about them degrading. Is the neutrons that are in there and all that, they make metals brittle, they tear down insulation, everything else like that. So the radiation environment is harsh. I'll just say that. But that's probably true. Now, I do know that the reactors are actually built as a modular unit. So when they bring them in, they actually pull the whole reactor out and take it to some special decommission yard and stuff. The reason is because it's highly enriched uranium. If anyone else got their hands on it, they could build bombs, dirty bombs, stuff like that and stuff.
Yeah.
And they are a extremely, that sort of engineering to build that kind of reactor to put in a ship or a sub is very specialized, very advanced, is marvel of engineering. And there's only 2 countries in the world that can do that. Sorry, guys, I'm done. I just got off on a tangent.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, that's good information, though.
Yeah. So, a second. There's one other thing that we should bring up, and I know this is going to be putting on the tinfoil hats again. And so, Scott, thank you for putting this in there, the question in here in the private chat. What about the aspect of terrorist attacks that can take out a transformer with a 50 cal from several miles away?
Oh, so actually, this is a great topic. So, we had a transformer attack in California. Or, sorry, do someone else want to talk about it first?
No,
go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we had that transformer attack in California. They actually attacked it with 7.62 by 39 AK rifles, which I found very interesting. They shot. No, it looks like standard Full Metal Jacket rounds. Some stuff the FBI has not released that we don't know.
Interesting.
Now the video is actually available. You can find it online really easy. But one of the things that's also very interesting about it is the timeline on it. So they actually, oh shoot, sorry guys. So at 12:58 a.m., the fiber connections were cut. Okay, surveillance camera started picking up issues around the chain link fence and stuff at 1:31 a.m. 1:37, PG&E received an alarm about issues with the substation and what they thought were bullets grazing the fence. Okay. At 1:45 a.m., the bank of transformers were riddled with holes, and 52,000 gallons of oil had leaked everywhere, and the transformer overheated, and they had to shut it down. So you're talking from 1:31 to 1:45, from when they started where they're pretty sure the shots happened, that transformer had leaked 52,000 gallons, and it overheated. So that's only about 15 minutes. That's surprisingly quick. I thought it would take longer, but I guess when you put AK, even when they're making holes this big, you can get a lot of oil out in the ground.
Well, how many
especially
holes?
the number of holes they put in it.
I figure standard AK 7.62 by 39 is about the size of my pinky. All right.
Yeah.
And if they're dumping, let's just say 150 rounds into a concentrated area, they can make a hole that big. You're going to lose a lot of fluid really quick.
Yeah, it could drain it in a matter of a couple minutes.
Yeah, and so let me see. I'm trying to find out how many rounds. Okay, they picked up more than 100 casings at the site.
Wow.
Who knows how many were actually picked up by the perpetrators? So
that ties also in with what happened. Was it 2008-ish?
Oh, sorry. It was 2013 and was called the Metcalf sniper attack.
Moderator.
But
Man, you were all over tonight, Kathy. Thank you. Man.
Yeah, she's got it.
Back earlier with what happened in San Jose when the copper thieves went into the manholes to cut wires to steal telecommunication copper. They cut the cable and guess what? It was fiber optic. No copper there, but it killed the internet in San Jose. And it took, they had to do a lot of rerouting and stuff, and they got crews out there and started trying to patch it as fast as possible. But
I just figured out how to fix the millennials in California.
Yeah, now all the manholes that have this in it are either have spot welded shut or have special lock nut things put into the lids and stuff to keep them shut. But yeah, it took to get those fully fixed was almost a week to get everything fully operational again. Crazy. But they got the internet back up again in 12 hours or something.
Now, what's interesting is you look at these events, like what Gil's talked about, the internet taken out, and then this transformer and all that. You could see how a determined set of adversaries, and it wouldn't need much, 20 guys, right? You could have guys go after and take out cell towers and the fiber optic communications out of a major city. Other guys take out transformers feeding it in. You could have 20 guys shut down an entire metropolitan area over one night with hardly any trouble. And it would cause mass chaos and panic, especially cutting the comms. That would cause massive trouble.
Hey, Steve, I'm not concerned one bit. I'm too old to care.
Either am I.
Everybody, hydrate.
Cut it. Let it burn. Cut it down. Bring it.
Time to hydrate, guys. It's winter.
Wait, let me sell my house in California first, and then you can cut it.
Mine too. All right, I got mine. I got to sell too.
And so, it seems like only the people that have worked, in the Homeland Security, FBI, all these groups where they do all this planning, and you really realize, oh wow, our society is actually far more fragile than we really realize. It's amazing we keep the darn thing running, honestly.
Just like the analogy of the highway, versus our, in our current electrical grid, it's so far out of date. Like I said, the lines that were behind my apartment were over 50 years old, and they replaced them because our lights would flicker. Well, guess what? My lights still flicker.
Yeah.
So they didn't fix the issue. So whatever the underlying issue is, still needs to be addressed. And, it's a bigger problem than what they're trying to address. They'll waste millions of dollars on band-aiding a system rather than actually fixing the root cause.
Yeah. And, I helped set up, the Coordination Center for Homeland Security. That's what I I was working at Chevron Texaco in charge of their corporate security at their place. And so I got, brought over. But the one thing that really drove home my emergency preparedness stuff for all the years I've been doing it beforehand was seeing some of those reports on how I want to say this without getting in trouble here, how delicate our stuff is.
Don't be afraid, Gil.
And so
brave.
basically, so that's when I started going and buying solar panels and started making my own system for my house in California. And I'm working on moving all those panels up here to Idaho to get it set up here as well. Along with that, I know who was it you commented on there, Scott, about Martin's latest video on his solar panels. You talked about you're going to put yours on a single pole out so it can be adjusted.
Oh, you were reading my comments, stalking me, or what?
No, I was making a good putting the same comment. So so I put my comment in too. Anyways, I found this interesting is there was a TV show on National Geographic called The Colony.
That was a good show. No, wait, where's the Discovered? Oh, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The Colony, where they were set up in this old warehouse and they went out and they scavenged some solar panels and stuff. And the one guy had the wherewithal to Mickey Mouse stuff together. Actually, not Mickey Mouse, MacGyver it together to get it so the panels would track the sun. So they got maximum use out of it. Well, that's one of the things we're looking to actually make those units for them now. And that's what I'm going to get when I set the stuff up here in Idaho. So I don't have to have so many panels. I can get full use out of them. They'll track east to west and they'll angle north to south to match the seasonal sun. And that way I can just track everything.
That is until the Earth's wobble happens to change the tilt just a little bit, and you can no longer track to that point.
Well, these will be able to track,
already wobble a little bit,
almost 60 degrees the one way and 120 degrees the other way.
Hey, if we break more than 24 degrees, we're in a world of hurt anyway, so it really won't matter at that point.
It won't matter anyways. So,
one thing with those, Gil, when you go set them up, you're going to want to figure out an anchor system for high wind. A lot of them have trouble in very high wind, so just keep an eye for that, okay?
I like to go like this.
Yeah. Well,
I've seen some break off too. It's kind of scary, but that's a different story.
Well, I'm not going to do as big panel setups as Heath did for Red Poppy Ranch. I'm going to probably do about a third the size of his and have more of them on.
Yeah, I like that approach. That's a good idea.
6 inch. That way they're around and they can, they all move and all work and all track the sun independently. Now, I don't want one big, huge monster one because the wind here is ridiculous.
Yeah, I bet it is.
And it blows from the south by southwest to the north to northeast, which puts it blowing from me to Yellowstone at right now at 35 miles an hour. So I don't have to worry about Yellowstone throwing stuff at me too much. But that's another.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Bet a 10-pound boulder lands somewhere on your house.
Well, hey, if the Beaufort Gyre current stops, the climate's and everything else is gonna change. Yellowstone's gonna blow directly at you, and I'll be safe, and you won't be.
I want to do a quick thing here. Those I know Scott put out on his Facebook and the other stuff about tonight's live paneling, and some of the people I saw coming in here I haven't seen before, so I gather they're coming from Scott. If you guys happen to subscribe to my channel, put in there that Scott sent you in one of the comments. That way Scott gets the credit for my 1,000 subscriber giveaway. And if you're coming from Reed's channel, put in that Reed sent you, or Dave at SOP, give these guys credit, if you happen to come join my channel, so they get their credit for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. Okay,
Cricket.
commercial over.
Cricket.
Commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want $10 a subscriber, Gil.
Well, if you win, you'll get, if you win the grand prize, you'll get that $450 knife.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Hey, Tibor, I'm going to kind of go over that in mine live next Wednesday. Mine live next Wednesday is going to be physical acclimation to elements.
Yeah. That'll be a cool one.
That is an interesting discussion for sure to think about.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that'll be on Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, 7:30 Mountain, 6:30 California. No reaction from Scott.
I was
essential.
I was busy looking at small town preparedness's 100 subscriber giveaway video right there. Sorry, I heard California and my ears pricked up.
Heaven's Essentials, $450 knife. You want to see one? Right here.
Oh, wow.
This is a $450 knife if you buy it retail. It is D2 steel. My design, I custom designed it. That's why it costs so much. I didn't pay that much for it, but.
All right, there is our favorite firearms instructor in California, who's our man behind the scene, giving us information on what the enemy's doing. Actually, Steve has some really good information, guys, out there. Corsair trainers. He
has a good series, especially on prepping in the city.
Yeah,
he has a lot of discussion about that.
And he has a lot of common sense information out there. Stop daydreaming about how great it's going to be during an HSTF or Tawaki situation. He brings everybody back down to reality. Reality check. That's it's reality check series.
Wants to know what D2 steel is.
It's a grade of carbon steel.
Yep. It's a tool steel. It's tool steel.
Yeah.
It's basically the same steel that your files are made out of. Some drill bits are made out of, crowbars. So it's a very durable, strong steel.
JFM.
Yeah, the different steel grades are going to determine the alloy composition, meaning the amount of carbon, like nickel, chromium, some of the other pieces in it. And then the different types of how it can be annealed, heat treated, and all that. Some are really good for knives, some suck. That's why some are cheaper knives, some are better knives.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just steel, Tibor. It's the quality of construction, all that stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
Warning, not an expert on steels, though.
But guys, as far as knives goes, on Monday on Just in Time Prepping channel, we'll be talking about flashlights and knives for preparedness.
Do I have to bring all my little toys?
You don't have to bring them all out. You can set them out on the table behind you if you want. But we're just going to be talking.
I got my table back there won't be able to hold the weight.
Yeah, neither will mine. Mine are all yeah. Anyways, hey. So, other things that we can do on our own, guys, to help secure our own little bit of the grid.
I know what Reed's got on his place. What are you doing at your place in Idaho, Gil? And SOP, what are you doing at your place, Dave?
I can't do nothing. I can't. I am in public housing. I can't do it. I can't even plant a small herb garden in the front window of my apartment without being threatened to be evicted. I can't put solar panels outside. I can't have anything here. I don't know who started this chain of events over here at this housing complex for this county, but if you sneeze outside backwards and it hits the neighbor, they can evict you for it. It is that bad here. People keep telling me, well, just build something, put it in front of your window. I can't have anything other than blinds and a curtain in my window.
Yeah.
And when are you moving?
I can't. It literally hurts for me to get into a car and ride 1.5 miles to Walmart and get back home.
Oh man.
But yeah, what I'm doing up here right now, I'm on a 5-year plan. My wife and I, she's being the accountant, a certified accountant, so we're working stuff. But I got 21 100-watt panels, and I got a
21
whole mess of
100-watt panels. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Gil.
21.
Sorry.
I'm like,
And
that's a big panel, 2,100 watts. I want a couple of those.
I'll take
Yeah.
one. I'll put it on my roof, and to hell with what they say. I'll be right back. I get
and
coffee.
then I have about I got a bunch back in the very beginning. I got those Harbor Freight ones that were 15 watts each.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got
Oh
three
yeah, those
set
little
of,
guys. Yeah.
yeah, the ones that they're about that wide and about 3 foot long. You know, almost the same size as the 100 watters you can get now off Amazon from
You have it for your
Renogy.
Idaho house?
I'm not yet. I'm in the process of getting the stuff set up.
Is your Idaho house on grid?
It's on grid.
Are you gonna cut the wire?
I'm gonna have a switch.
Okay, so
Let me
you're
get
gonna
this
you're gonna pull a read.
So basically, and then I have all those Harbor Freight ones, which is 45-watt systems. I had 8 of those, so 8 times 45. But what I'm going to be doing is we want to set it up so that once I finish rewiring this house, which still has pin and tube wiring in the attic and in some of the walls, I want to make it safe before I put the solar on it.
Right.
I'm going to be setting up in the basement the batteries we were talking about earlier, the LOP blah, 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 faux whatever heck batteries that we were talking about earlier, Reed.
Lithium iron phosphate.
Yes.
Yep. I call them life batteries. LIP.
Yeah.
LIFEPO4.
Yeah, LIFO.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you a question, Gil. I gotta ask questions. It's
Okay.
just killing me. So, Reed, real quick, in your area, you did your own system and you got a switch. If the power company or the local authorities caught you, would you be in trouble? Would they be like, eh?
No, mine's fully permitted. What
So
I
New
did was
Mexico, the local ordinances and the codes around there allow you to do that.
yeah, you can have up to a 10. Okay, grid backup is very easy to permit because you treat it as what's called a separately derived electrical system. You just to do your own wiring at your house, you just have to go take a test. You pull a permit, and it's really easy.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I mean that was a piece of cake. I had no trouble with that.
I didn't mean to ask you a possibly self-incriminating question. That was kind of stupid. I'm sorry.
No. Don't worry. You can ask any question you want.
Like in Dave's situation, he can do nothing. So you're allowed to do that with a permit. And here in California, you are not allowed to do that. Gil, it's your place in Idaho. What I know where my place in Idaho is in Bonner County, you don't need a permit except for your well and your septic and to put a foundation in, and you can do whatever the heck you want. So, Gil, where you're at in Southeast Idaho, said you're going to put a switch in. Are you going to do it under the radar? Or?
Well, basically, in Bingham County here, hey, I can build a 20 by 40 foot building without a permit until I put grid electrical into it. Then I got to get it permitted.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that's off grid. Like if I was in the county, yeah, I could pretty much do anything I wanted. Well, basically, I mean, as long as I don't become a nuisance or trouble.
Yeah. Where I'm at, I'm in a city that is 1/4 mile square. Actually, less than a 1/4 mile square. And everybody knows everybody, and everybody is of the proper mindset. Right-handed. Anyways.
So you're doing something that may or may not require permit. Your neighbors aren't going to snitch on you, is what you're saying,
right? Yeah. But having been a general engineering contractor, when I get the house totally rewired and everything done, I am getting I got to get the county inspector to come out here, go give it. Yeah, you're all good. Then I get a new meter put in. Instead of being on the back of the house, it's going to be on the front of the house. And with that setup that I already talked to the power company, there's going to be a manual transfer switch, which I pull it from this position to that position, and it totally disconnects the grid from the house and connects to the backup system.
And you have the blessing from the local power company to put that switch in.
I found out what the requirements are for the meter box and for the switch box. So that, but I have to wait until I get the whole house rewired and get it up to code, get rid of all that pin and tubing wiring and all that other crap, and get the county inspector out here to say, yeah, okay, yeah, you're good. Get his blessing. Then the power company will allow me to install the new meter box. They'll come out, plug the meter in, move the line, and then I will be totally taken care of there.
Wow, that blows my mind what you just said.
Yeah, it's not California. All right, they don't have 50 zillion regulations to stop you from wiping your nose.
No, I know.
Yeah, if you want
what we're talking about is a differentiation of code requirements and laws that are completely different from Reed, completely different from Dave. There's that one guy that a lot of us have followed. Oh my gosh, what's his name? He was getting he was in a battle with CPS for a while. They were going to try and take his kids away.
Prepper Swan?
Who?
Never mind. Not that guy then.
It was an off-gridder back east, and he was off-grid, and they forced him to put a power meter in because of children and he was out in the boonies in a county, but they forced him to get into this big old battle. It's amazing to me the disparity in codes from one extreme to the other in completely different areas of the country, and for no particular reason except people with reasonable minds are running the codes in those states.
Yeah.
In those counties versus people that are complete idiots. For example, in Idaho,
part of that is, Scott, deals with whether it is a red or blue state.
Yeah, New Mexico's actually New Mexico's a blue state, but what's kind of funny is we went blue really bad in this last election from idiocy. But New Mexico's actually a really big libertarian state. Most of the people out here are like, I just want to live my life, leave me alone. So there's lots of off-gridders out here. There's lots of people that have these little, hippie communes. I mean, it's really fun. And so basically most of the time it's don't be a nuisance and no one cares. You can do your own wiring. You can be off-grid. I have a well.
Idaho used to be. It's changing.
Well, see,
I have my own well on my property, even though I'm in a city and can have city water. I put a well in. All sorts of stuff.
See, up in Michigan, you can run 110 and 220 in the house, but you can't hook 220 to your box. You can run 110 to your box, no problem. But once you hit 220, an electrician has to come out and certify your box and make the final connection for 220. So if you run 220 in the house and split it down to 110, you can run your entire house, but an electrician has to come out, hook it to the box, and then certify the box, and then an inspector has to come out and search it and check it.
So the question is, how bad did the person that caused that rule to get in place hurt themselves or their neighbor?
Well, I mean, a lot of these codes were enacted because of problems and dangers and fires and deaths and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, we differentiate the good intentionedness of a lot of these codes and designs and whatever, and of course technology increases, right? There's definitely that side of that, and I agree with codes to a certain point. One of my videos I put out was a patio cover, and like, really, if you just do your homework and know what you're doing with something basic like a patio cover, why the heck do you need a permit from the local city? Here, boy, down to the screw and the cover on your outlet, they're going to inspect every last little thing, make sure that outlet is 18 inches above the floor in every way. I mean, in the city,
there's a disparity though in all these codes and conducts,
right?
Up in Michigan,
yeah.
Well, see, I was a property maintenance manager up in Michigan.
Oh, you know all about it then.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to learn the codes. But there's I forget what there's a limit on the number of people per dwelling based on the number of rooms.
The occupancy.
Thank you.
The certificate of occupancy or something.
Right. And in Michigan, there's a rule. You can only have so many people per square foot or room number of an apartment. Here in Ohio, there is no such rule. We had a family 4 doors down from me that had 18 people for 2 weeks living in it. Then it dropped back down to like 8 in a 2-bedroom apartment. So it was really disgusting, really bad. There's feces outside, and that's just the beginning of it. But here in Ohio, there is no occupancy rule for apartments. So
Interesting.
there's a very big disparity in between all these rules and regulations that we have to follow when we go to build stuff. That makes no sense. If we're going to dictate how many screws are holding your panel on the wall, then we should also dictate how many people are living in that apartment. Now,
Kathy
if we're
said,
going to go to one extreme, we need to make the whole thing that way, or get rid of all the rules altogether and just let people find out the hard way when they, they
if
give
you
themselves
try
a
and
permanent
enforce
haircut.
you try
You know,
enforcing the occupancy rules down here in California, you'll be a racist.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty
Saying.
much what I got called up here. So
it's like it's like I see. I've got two mindsets about code. Some code, I like building code, plumbing code, national electric code. A lot of that stuff used to be about safety and fire prevention and general stuff like that. But the industry's really gotten into it as a way to mandate forced upgrades to drive money. I have seen a lot of that come through in codes. But the other thing, though, is like I personally think you should be allowed to own your own piece of land completely. I mean, no property taxes, or if you want to do everything on your own, you can. But it's not possible in today's society, which stinks. But I also think, if you buy a piece of land and you want to build a pink purple castle with neon lights, sure, go ahead.
They do that down here.
Yeah, but I mean,
They did that in California. It's called UC Berkeley.
Right?
there you go. But if you want to do things, and if you want to build stuff that isn't exactly up to some code and all that, that's fine. But if you go to sell your property, do something like that, and where you're going to go transfer to someone else, they have to know everything like this, and then you should be required to give an estimate to bring it up to the code, so that they know what they're dealing with there. That's my opinion. It's if you do it on your own, feel free. But if you go to sell it to someone else, they need to be made aware of everything involved here.
Yep.
Okay, Scott, just show you something here. If it'll come up here. Okay, this here is the city I live in. That red line around there. Over here, that's the Snake River. But let me zoom in here.
Let me put my bifocal
That's
so I can see the darn screen.
All right. From where I'm dragging the cursor across here, that fence line there, all this up here, this is my property, my 5 acres.
Nice.
Yeah.
See,
And so,
there's enough room for me to move right back there where that little circle in the grass is, back corner.
Yeah. So,
people need much circle.
Yeah. This here was the irrigation ditch that came through the property going over here.
Cool.
Well, I talked to them. They said, "Oh, you can do whatever you want to it, just so long as it enters the same spot and exits the same spot. You can drag it around anywhere you want on your property." So it now goes down to here and straight over and out, because my daughter's going to build her house right over here.
Oh, that's neat.
And I just had to make sure that it had 1 inch of fall from here to there.
Right.
And I put this down here inside a 15-inch ABS corrugated pipe. And later this spring, I'm going to do the rest of it. And I got several boxes along the way here where I can pump the water out to irrigate my land, because I get to do that 2 days a week, all day long.
That's really nice that you have a water right. Water rights are so complicated in a lot of places. It's like in Colorado, you can't get them practically.
Now, here's what's interesting about this little town. You saw how small that little town was. Scroll back out here. That's the size of the town. That's not a town. It's a city. It's an incorporated city.
Really?
Yes, it is an incorporated city in 16.
I count like 18 city blocks. That's it?
That's it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Like I said, it's a quarter of a mile. Actually, it's 0.24 mile by 0.24 mile. Anyways, it has city water, city sewer, natural gas.
Wow.
High-speed internet. And you wonder why I moved here from California?
Wow.
Do you guys have fiber to your house for internet?
No, not yet. We have.
What were those big buildings right there?
Huh?
What were those big buildings?
Oh, you're gonna love this. This right here.
Yeah.
That's Idaho Supreme Potato. That's where they make the mashed potato,
Oh.
the flavored mashed potatoes.
So you have a city full of potato workers.
And the Snake River's right here. The Snake River
Fishermen.
is 12 feet below the lowest spot on my property. But it's a lot lower going out over this way to the farmland.
That's awesome.
So I don't have to worry about flood. I don't have to worry about flooding because it will never flood. Even when the Grand Teton, when the Grand Teton dam broke, everything to the west of the river got flooded.
Oh, I bet.
Basalt did not.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, that's the
cool place.
Yeah, and it's the
That looks a lot like my area.
I got a great neighbor here. He's a mechanic. This guy runs cattle. And and my real estate agent lives right over here. So and there's always some houses coming up for sale and stuff. They haven't updated overhead because this property got sold out. We were going to try to buy it, and the guy said, no, not going to sell. And then they decided to sell, and they didn't tell us. Otherwise, we would have picked up that acre as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So preparedness. I know you're building your solar backup, and you got the generator. So Dave, I know you can't do anything. Do you have at least a generator for backup?
Nope.
Yeah.
Can't store it. We have no storage units. No, most apartment complexes either have a storage unit or will let you put some kind of storage building on the backside of your apartment. Can't do
what about just one of those little small, little small Honda 1000s? I have one of those.
Can't keep gasoline in the apartment. Fire code.
Who is somebody going to come? Somebody check on that?
They come every 6 months and inspect these places.
Stick that sucker in your freaking closet, man.
They check the closets.
Are you serious?
They check the attic. Because a couple of years ago, some goofball who was selling marijuana decided to shove all his stuff, because they warn you a week in advance that they're coming out. He shoved all his pot up in his attic. So now they check the attics.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I have security cameras out the wazoo around my place, because there is so much drug activity here. I got swatted a couple weeks back. Yeah. I seen the cops walking up to my apartment. I walked over, turned the light on, and opened the door for them. You cannot sneak up to my apartment.
Yeah.
Wow.
About the only thing he could put on his property there would be like the Kodiak or one of those little, handheld to look like a little briefcase type,
Which I've got a small one. I've got a 6-volt one. I want to get one of the Energy Kodiaks or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've got something here too. I can power, say, my refrigerator for a couple hours every day to keep the freezer cold.
Right. But that's what I was thinking. Is what do you need?
One of those.
Yeah.
The
$1,500 I just don't have.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Well, yeah. The one thing that I was let's see if I got it up here still. No, I don't. Okay. The one thing I was going to get, and unfortunately it hurts the wallet, and therefore
everything hurts the wallet.
Mama Bear, drill sergeant accountant, is saying no right now for a couple years. Power port. I can't even remember now. Let me bring up the other one here. I'll just bring it this way. It'll be quicker. Okay.
5 years later.
All right. It's this bad boy here, which Ben sells, is the Titan. Now, the way it works, let me back it up here. Yeah, he was doing his test on it here. Let me pause it. Okay, each one of these banks under it here. This is just the brains of the unit. It has all sorts of smart stuff in there. It has a true working 1500 watt inverter in here. That's not peak. That is working 1500 watt working. And then each of these are stackable additional batteries you can get on it, and you can get 2 units, and they can connect, and they jump together off the big plug, so you can actually make 220. But that thing runs. You're talking about $3,000 for the unit he has right there.
Yeah.
But those are the full good quality ion batteries and the whole setup on it. And he's on one of his things there. It was, what can the Titan solar generator really do? That's that video, and he puts it through its paces. So, but yeah, that's my dream.
See you later, Steve.
Because take it easy, Steve. Okay, Wolverines. But yeah, it's a really good unit. Right now, if I just had what he had here at my place, I wouldn't be worried at all about power going out, because the only 220 thing we have in the house now is the AC unit. Got rid of the electric dryer, got rid of the electric range, put gas since we got gas here, put in a gas dryer, gas range. We only have one 220 thing for the house, and that's the AC. The only other 220 I have is out in the garage, and that's the welder. And hey, I don't have to weld.
You say that now.
Yeah.
Say that now.
Well, I also
the apocalypse is going to hit, and Gil's going to be saying, "I need the welder."
Well, hey, I will go buy a gas multi-fuel driven welder. That's also, my wife has agreed, after she's totally retired and we've got everything done, I can get one then for one of those. After everything else is done here, after the Willipina is put in and all the other fun stuff. The Willipina is the greenhouse, folks, if you don't know what that is. If Howie's
still I do. Don't get me started.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Willipina.
Yeah, and when we put that in, we're going to put in a couple extra of the buried 6-inch pipes down 10 feet and run a couple to the house, so we can in the summertime we can run that cool air into the house.
I totally want to do that too.
New Mexico
with a little 12-volt fan.
Well, pretty much anywhere in the U.S., if you go down like 3 or 4 feet, the temperature stabilizes to like 50-something degrees, like 52 or something.
Yeah.
And you can literally cool a whole house and stuff. That's why root cellars were underground.
Yeah. The other thing is, though, like in certain areas, like Nebraska, the guy in Nebraska had to go down 8 feet because it freezes there big time to maintain at 52 degrees to keep his Willipina at 52 degrees. And so he could keep his orange trees and his banana trees growing in there.
So you went and saw that video I told you to go see, the Finch, didn't you?
Actually, before that, I saw that from someone else earlier.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. On the Willipina. And actually, I think it was Howie that sent me to that.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost Reed for a minute.
Uh-oh.
He muted. I guess he turned. I'm not sure if he's totally gone or he's just muted for a minute. But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff I plan to do to here. My daughter's going to be building her house, and the one corner of the property, the northeast corner, my son's already drawn up the blueprints for his house, and my wife and I want to build a house of our own, or get a modular, a manufactured one brought in and set up, and then the existing house will be the family center house. That's
cool.
So like when we need in the summertime, when we need to do canning and stuff, since nobody's living in it, we can do the canning in the kitchen here. And if it heats the house up, no big deal. We just open up the windows and everybody goes home at night to their own little houses. But yeah.
Well, guys, I've got to get out of here. I
Yep.
got to be up at 4 a.m. I got to work tomorrow, and
Okay.
so I am really
Oh,
grateful.
we did 2.5 hours tonight.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Great topic, man. There's so much we didn't say,
Yeah.
but definitely.
It's a full day video trying to talk about the grid and everything that's associated with it. We could talk for literally 24 hours and still not touch every bit.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's crazy. I mean, my whole journey with this started, I don't know how many years ago, talking with a friend trying to get out of California for one. But when I got, my buddy was a salesman for Solar City, and he's like, dude, you got to do these solar panels. And that's really kind of what touched off this whole preparedness thing. And then starting to get into YouTube and stuff, it all just started tying and falling together. And just amazing how many variations of the same story is, from Reed to Dave to Gil, the regulations. But bottom line is, you got to somehow get something to back your stuff up, and so you can be prepared at whatever level of preparedness you need to be at to survive however bad it gets. And we know it's going to get bad at some point. So that's kind of that's the burning question.
Well, in a couple weeks, I'm going to be doing the live in a couple weeks here is going to be similar to this one. It's going to be a little bit about the grid, but it's going to be about EMP and what we can do to protect our stuff from EMP and about after EMP. And I'm really hoping I can get Ben in here to join us, because he is an expert on EMP. He's been a speaker at many preparedness fairs and stuff for several years, like 5 or 6 years on that. And so try to get Ben in here for that.
I'm going to have to walk around and try and find some Valium that night so I don't go off on my soapbox.
All right. So everyone in the side chat, thank you very much. Those are still here. And once again, if you aren't subscribed to anybody up here on the screen, go ahead and check them out. They've got some really good people up here. And if you love macadamia nuts, see Scott. He's got several videos on macadamia nuts and how to crack them and stuff.
Yeah, no, I definitely met some new people tonight. Reed, it's a pleasure to meet you and talk with you. I'm serious. When I say I'm going to binge watch your channel, I'm going to go binge watch your channel. I mean, I've learned a lot about
free to ask
stuff, but man, you got a wealth
any
of info,
questions. I get back to everyone as much as I can, and I try to get as much detail on any questions anyone has. Try to help everyone out as much as I can.
No, it's great stuff, man. Thanks for joining the live tonight, and I'll do it as much as I possibly can. I love the forum that you're making here, Gil, and I think it's a sorely needed part of the community. And obviously you see how many people in there watching and learning and listening, and people are doing the same kinds of things. The more that we pass the word out and get people involved, the better off people are, better prepared people are going to be. That's really what it is about, communication and teaching each other and sharing information.
Right.
So,
when the grid goes down, you're your own first responder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. All right. So I'm going to kill the stream here. Everybody on the panel, stay here for a second. I'm going to end the broadcast.